Today, I reveal who designs houses, how much time it takes, the cost range for a design, what is critical to know about the process, and what options you have. Plus, one home design secret in the United States might surprise you. Securing my architect's license at age 43 marked a milestone in my career, yet it wasn't the beginning of my journey into home design. Before this achievement, I had already amassed over 2 decades of professional experience crafting residential architecture. Join me as I explain the various routes to the home design profession, exploring opportunities for aspiring designers, architects, and those seeking to curate their ideal homes. First, what is the difference between an architect and a designer? Let's get into the weeds of this for a bit. Labeling yourself an architect requires, by law, that you have a license issued by the state or states where you build. States also issue stamps for interior designers and landscape architects, so there are legal limitations on using those labels. The term home designer is an open field, and individuals using that phrase are usually self-declared. And here's more nitty-gritty regarding authorities. Depending on the state, obtaining a license to practice architecture involves a combination of education, work experience under licensed architects, and a series of exams, some nationalized and others mandated by each state. For example, California requires a standalone final exam specific to itself. Each state has an architect's board administered by the state government. Contact any state architect's board for information on their requirements to obtain a license to practice architecture. Most states have similar requirements and the ability to reciprocate from one state to another. The catch is that if one state requires a state-specific exam, you must pass that test in that state to practice the profession, in addition to the required nationalized testing. Also, if a state has a different education requirement, you must possess those to become licensed there. Before obtaining my license, I labeled myself a residential designer. For years, this option is legal in my state and most locations around the country. Some city and state governments require licensed architects to design all new housing, though this is the exception. Contact your local building and planning departments where you intend to build to check their requirements. As you can see, the topic is complex, depending on the professional and the consumer. So refer to the board within the state you wish to work for more information on who is eligible to call themselves an architect in your location. For home buyers, state boards assist in understanding the architect's responsibilities and verifying license qualifications for architects in your state. As for the designation of home designer, there is an organization called the American Institute of Building Design, AIBD, not to be confused with the American Institute of Architects, an organization for licensed architects that provides professional development and contract documents that some architects use. The distinction is that procuring clients as an architect in the United States requires a state-issued license to practice architecture, whereas becoming a building designer is a certification issued by AIBD. The primary difference between an architect and a building designer is that the level of education and work experience and examinations for architects is far more extensive. While AIBD does not issue a license, they provide certifications for home design professionals to establish their abilities. Now, the entertaining part. There are 3 primary paths to design a house. Let us explore more and get closer to the one home design secret you should know. Are you a risk taker? A jack of all trades? Does DIY float your boat? Can you live with and recover from a few mistakes? Then, for you, the first option could be to design the house yourself. As mentioned, this route may or may not be allowed where you intend to build. Check out the requirements by visiting the authority having jurisdiction, or the AHJ, for where you intend to design and build. AHJs are building and planning departments of your city, or, if you construct outside the city limits, your county government. Should you design your new house? To answer that question, consider your abilities to visualize in 3 dimensions, organize space efficiently and logically, and obtain a clear understanding of critical elements such as structural design and building codes. You must also be able to assemble a set of construction documents, which is a set of instructions on how to build the house you design. Do not pursue this route unless you have prior experience with computer-aided design drawings and a solid knowledge of residential building codes for your location. In the US, some places do not require a building permit, but these are rare, and even if you could, it is not wise. Why? Planning buildings is a consequential endeavor. Building codes and structural analysis protect inhabitants from accidents or failures caused by improperly designed and constructed buildings. Regardless of those implications, you still need a set of plans. Going into designing any structure without an education or an aptitude for the process can overwhelm anyone. Without being a professional home designer, whether an architect or a certified building designer, the learning curve is steep and the water is treacherous. However, if you possess the abilities and confidence to design a building, create house plans, and know the requirements in your location, you could pursue this path. Your expense is only your time assembling plans. In my professional opinion, few people should attempt this. Of course, some homeowners sketch a floor plan and hand it over to a design professional who translates that into a workable set of house plans. This contribution to the process allows a claim that you designed your own house. But trust me, developing a conceptual layout is the easiest part. What other options do you have? And what about that surprising secret that will astonish you? Let us move on to the path of least resistance. You may be familiar with the term ready to wear bantered about in the fashion industry. Well, ready to build defines the following 2 options as a shortcut to getting a new house built just for you, where you may contribute to its design. Option number 1, the easier route to a new house and the most common, is to go to a home builder constructing a small to sizable development in your preferred location and find out what is available that they have yet to build. They will offer a few pre-designed house plans from which you can choose. They construct them as part of their real estate development project. Most home builders employ staff residential designers, and some hire architectural firms, though rarely, to create home designs they can replicate many times over. While most houses they construct are speculative, meaning that they build them with the intent to find a buyer afterward, you might catch them in the early stages for a specific lot in that development. This route allows options on anything yet determined for a specific home design, such as finish choices. Because home builders include the price of their home design with their speculation, all you pay is the market price for a completed house in that development. Pretty easy. Upgrades to your chosen model may add to the cost of completing your home, one of the few variables in this scenario. Also, the time to get the house built is usually only several months, which can be helpful to the budget. Option number 2 is to buy a set of pre-designed house plans known in the industry as stock house plans. While not as fast and somewhat more complicated than option number 1, it allows you far more choice. The downside is that it takes longer to get a house built than the first option because you must also find land and a general contractor as part of that process. Buying land to build a home is a world unto itself. Let us spare getting into that aspect for now and assume you want to go down this path regardless. The upside is saving time and money because the stock plan provides the completed design. With the stock plan route, there is no going back and forth with a residential designer or architect. You select a design from the stock plan market that satisfies your needs and tastes. Prices for stock plans range from a few $100s to several thousand per plan. A side note is that most people want changes to the stock plan they buy. Modest changes are simple, such as changing a bathtub to a shower. But enlarging or shrinking the house can complicate matters to the point that you are better off with a custom design. For decades, stock plans have allowed many homeowners a more streamlined and less expensive path through the design process, though you will likely end up with rather average architecture. Not that there's anything wrong with that. This option suits most people, especially those with tighter budgets or timelines. The best part is coming up. This secret may come as a total surprise. Now, enter the world of custom home design, architectural notoriety, and potential fame. Yes, that is right. You and your house may become famous one day. It is a slim possibility. But homeowners and designers coast to coast may attain high regard for their renowned residences. For example, the Stahl House in Los Angeles, Falling Water in Pennsylvania, Hearst Castle in California, and Biltmore in North Carolina instantly promote their design aesthetic by mentioning that abode. When it comes to this level of home design, it usually falls to the wealthiest 1% of us. Take heed that this is no small market. More than 3 million families across the United States have money to spend on lavish living quarters and build whatever they desire. Visit any wealthy neighborhood in the most prosperous cities across the country and encounter unending construction and elaborate mansions that induce awe and uncomfortable envy among the rest of us. We have reached the bespoke buyer of the home design market. Design build firms, interior designers, residential designers, and licensed architects take on one-to-one clientele. Some designers and architects develop residential property that they keep for themselves and garner significant adoration within the profession, but they are the rare exceptions. Costs vary drastically for a custom design, from a modest investment with a residential designer for $10,000 to $20,000 to the starchitect, who commands a 15% fee of the construction costs. The cost spectrum is practically wide open. For example, a new $10 million house designed by a famous architect can get paid as much as $1.5 million. Understand that huge fees involve the operation of a professional office and staff. Trust me, such a huge fee is rare, but fees that range in the lower six figures for architectural services are commonplace in the most affluent American communities. As for the investment of time, custom home design may take several months to several years. If you build within a homeowners association, they may possess review authority for the proposed architecture. Also, in some high-end neighborhoods, a design review process administered by the local planning department is required. California even has another layer on top of the others for coastal construction. The bottom line is that getting a new home custom designed and built in some locations is onerous. These constraints are why so much time is required to succeed with these faceted layers. Who do you go to? Where do you go? And what should you expect when you want a new house in the United States? In this chart, the green background indicates verifiable data, while the yellow background indicates estimated data. The blue background indicates possible copies of the same design, since a home builder might have an architect design some of their houses. They could build a single design as many as 100 times. The architect creates a single floor plan, which pushes the quota of the architect design house much lower as a percentage of the total built. Other limitations contribute to fewer licensed architects. The fact that the bar to get a license is very high limits candidates who are willing to go through that long and expensive process. Another factor is that in most places in the country, you do not need a license to design wood-framed residential buildings of 3 stories or less. Because we build the same structure for houses across the country that we have done for about 150 years, the structure is a familiar building type. Almost any contractor knows how to build a conventional house. Its complexity only lies in the intricacies of the design itself, and not the overall concept or structural capability. There is much speculation about the circumstances that results in the low number of architect-designed homes. Some say that the architecture profession is too proud of itself to take on the average house. I think that is not the case at all. Few licensed architects specializing in residential work are ever available. With only one residential architect in the overall population of the United States per every 27,690 people, high demand and low supply push the market to other professionals. With just 0.7% of the population buying a new house each year, you might believe plenty of licensed architects are available. But refer to the most intriguing statistic in the chart on the red background. For the number of new single-family homes each year in the U.S., there is only one residential licensed architect per every 208 home buyers. If each licensed architect had 208 new home projects on the boards, their waiting list would be decades long. At last, we reach the odd truth between licensed architects and American home design. Statistically, licensed architects likely design only 1 to 6% of all new homes in the United States, perhaps because there are not enough people with that coveted license, or perhaps because of the higher fees architects can draw from the wealthiest 1%. Are you surprised? Does that make a difference to the profession? Or anyone else? Is a licensed architect better than a certified designer? I suspect the answers to these questions are gray areas. Designers feel the need for the demand. A few licensed architects produce work that will one day garner national notoriety. Most licensed residential architects have long careers with upscale clients, with repeat business and referrals from them during their careers. Do you have more questions about American home design? Please post in the comments below, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell for future updates. Watch this video next to learn how I might help you create or find a home of your dreams, or help you become a residential designer or architect.